Hello and welcome to the 23rd video in the Project Sovereign series. In this video, I'll further refine the quantum torpedo launcher Captain's Yacht area and create the torpedo tube itself. This is turning out to be quite the build, so let's get started. Okay, so I've done the rest of the extrusion operations, and they were pretty much just like the ones that I showed, so I didn't bother filming them because it would just be too repetitious. But I'll go into details as to what I actually did. Of course, I created this main groove for the torpedo launcher assembly. And some of these extruded boxes here that are part of the original model, of course. The only kind of different thing that I did was I cut into the side these lines here so I could create the pylons for what will become the nacelles for the Captain's Yacht. So just basic operational stuff like that. But now it's time to move on to the fun part, which is actually creating the details that go into this. So let's take a look at our photo. So there's a couple more things that we need to do divot-wise. And that's creating the hole for the launcher itself and for, I guess, these kind of controller components. So that's not going to be too difficult. What I can do is just extrude these. I'm wondering. Yeah, these go kind of straight down instead of canting in. So what I can do, or hopefully what I can do, is take these guys and align them with my edge constraints on. Okay, so that kind of worked. I just need to bring this up. Turn my snaps on, make that easier. Let's see if that... Pull that back into place. I think that should do it. Yeah, that looks pretty much fine. And the top looks fine. All right. Choose these. Should have my ignore back face on, of course. And I'll do these. It'll be a symmetry modifier, but I just want to make sure I don't grab anything I don't want to and create any unnecessary seams here. So everything is clear, looks like. So we can extrude. That's probably fine. I'm going to isolate this. And of course, we can move this to wherever we want. That looks just about right. Switch the selection to the vertices and mush. Go. So something like that. Put our good old symmetry modifier on here. Flip it. There we go. That looks to be about the right size. Go into perspective just to get a better look. Yeah. Yep, that'll be just fine. And now for the surrounding walls. What I'm talking about is this little pocket right here. I'm going to have to create as well, but that shouldn't be difficult. But who knows? Sometimes the easy things are difficult when it comes to modeling. Let's see. I'm going to cut. Oops. Let's try. Sometimes when you change views, it doesn't like it. Cut tool's a little bit ornery. It can have trouble sort of figuring out what you want to do with it. Let's see, like that. And comparing it to this. Okay, I think I know what's going on here. That and extrude. I don't think we want it to be that deep. Let's see. Do the same thing that we just did. And this time, I don't think I'm going to mush it. Yeah, I'm just going to keep it like that. I think that's going to be the way to go. Look at that. Yep. I think one last thing I might do. And again, it's difficult to tell with all the perspective and everything, just what is going on with this geometry. But I think a cool thing might be to just kind of shift this over. My edge constraints on. Just like that, just to give it a bit more. Like you see how it's kind of leaning in. It looks like it's kind of like scrunching in here like this. Yeah, I think that's much closer to what's going on with the assembly there. So that's not looking too bad at all. The next step is going to be actually building the torpedo cannon, so that should be pretty fun. Let's take note of what's going on with the torpedo tube. So a couple things we can note. It's mostly cylindrical, but it's a flat cylinder. You can see it's a bit tapered, it appears. It's larger in the back and it tapers down at the barrel, or muzzle, I should say. And there's also this kind of rifling going on. I know it's not spiral rifling, but it looks like it's there to straighten the torpedo's course, I guess. But at any rate, there's these grooves that we need to factor in while we're making this. So we'll create a cylinder. Instantly reduce the height segments. We just want one. And for cylinder, I might have talked about this before, but I'll say it again. I like to use multiples of 4 when creating a cylinder, just so there's always an edge this way and an edge this way. Just makes it easier to subdivide. So I'm thinking maybe 32. Let's have a look. Yeah, I think that should be all right. Let's bring it up here where we can see it. Right. Okay, bring it to here. And we can adjust the radius and all that fun stuff so it fits. And we can always, of course, readjust this stuff when we turn it into an edible poly, but I like to do as much of this as I can. While it's still in primitive mode. And this is looking pretty good. Let's check our photo reference. Yeah, it's about, I would say, twice the size of this. I like to compare it to other parts of the ship, just so I can get it, a feel for the size. Looks like it's about twice the size of this, here or there. I'm not going to go too crazy with the details. So I think that's going to be good. Convert to edit poly. Cut it right down the middle. I'm going to cut down this edge too, just to make it a bit easier to work with. There we go. Just delete that. Now this will just be, it'll be easier to work with. Even if you don't technically need this back piece, it doesn't really matter. Bring this out to 0. Mirror this. Move the mirror to 0. Flip. There we go. So I think that's looking pretty good. Maybe I'll just move this out. Just a bit more. Like that. Okay, cool. All right, and just move these out. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna taper, make it so it's tapering. Like in the picture. Just like that. Okay. Just like to get a sneak peek of what it's going to look like, but we can adjust all of this stuff later. Okay, so now what I need to do is create this opening right here. It looks pretty thin-walled in the photos, so I'm not going to create too much of an opening here. Let me collapse this stack. Inset just a little bit. Actually, that's probably right. Yep. And what else I'm going to do just to give it, well, first let me extrude it. And all of this stuff, of course, we can adjust later. Oops. Okay, great. And finally, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create the geometry here for those grooves that we were discussing earlier. So just connect these two. Just make it look even. And it should be the same number here. Yep. Great. All right. So what I can do to finally make these grooves is, let me see if I can choose every other. Actually, I'd have to do this. No, I can tell that's not going to work, see, because I'm going to wind up with two here. So what I'm going to do is select everything and inset, but by polygon. See, just like that. Make it a bit bigger. There we go. And extrude. Whoa. There we go. Get out the old symmetry modifier again. Zero out that mirror. Oh, right, I gotta flip it. And that's basically it. That's looking like a pretty cool torpedo tube right there. Let's put our material on it. Bring it back. And let's see, will the plan actually tell us? Kind of how this, no, it's too low res for that. That actually looks pretty good. Let me see, check with the photo. Oh, it's actually sort of tucked in here. All right, that makes sense. This thing down here is probably the guard or something for it. And what we can do is collapse this. And simply grab all of these, bring them back, just like that. Let's see, is it flared out a bit more? Nope. Let's see, one final touch I could add. This might be gilding the lily, but whatever. This is part of the fun of it, right? Is to sort of round out this part right here instead of making it so, whoops. Instead of making it so flat, I guess I have to use the symmetry modifier again. Instead of just making it flat like this, give it that nice sort of round. See how there's a really subtle sort of roundness? Barely see it, but it's there, so I want to incorporate that on this model. So connect 2 segments like that, and then drag them out just a little bit. There we go. Symmetry. Flip. And finally, smooth. Auto smooth. There we go. Yeah, just to give it that little, I mean, it's probably not going to get that close to the ship, but I just like putting little details into it like that. Collapse all. So there we go. There is your quantum torpedo launcher right there. Later in the build, I'm going to put a light in here that I'll be able to turn on and off. I'll be able to change the brightness just so we can get the effect of having the torpedo launcher armed and then firing. So I wasn't really happy with the scale of the grooves in the torpedo launcher, so I decided to get rid of them and create new ones. So I deleted the old ones, just made sure I had everything selected there, and I dragged a new edge down, as you can see, just to create a new bore, and I made sure to cap that off. And finally, I selected 2 of each polygon, as you'll see here. I started selecting away, so I selected 2 and inset, and I just accepted that, and then I selected 2 more and inset, so they'd be evenly spaced. So this is a bit more tedious, but I thought it would create a better sense of scale with the original scale model. So I just kept doing that, and finally I extruded all, just like I did before. Everything else is the same. I extruded all, and then I kept that, put on a symmetry modifier, and then finally smoothed it all out. So I think you'll agree that the new result is much better. It looks more like it did in the movie, and now I'm free to move on to the next step. I've decided to end the video here as it's already getting pretty long, and there's still a lot of work to do. I have to build all of the greebles. I've since put in these grooves. I don't know if you can see right here, just these grooves, just like on the real thing since I last spoke. But I am really very happy with this new torpedo tube, and I'm going to do the next greebles. So the little part down here, the rectangle that we saw before, and these mechanics in here, I will save for the next video. So stay tuned. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you soon.